The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and/or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
TV party tonight! What? TV party tonight!
Oh, we got nothing better to do than watch TV and have a couple of brews.
Don't want to talk about anything else.
We don't want to know.
We're dedicated
To our favorite shows.
Oh, my circuits!
Everybody loves Hypnotoad.
Scary dog!
Pearson at Blurnsville.
Futurama!
Hello, good evening, and welcome to TV Party Tonight. I'm your host, Alexis Hejna, and tonight we are talking anime. Well, sort of. We're sort of talking anime. We are talking live-action anime. And before you immediately turn off your computers because you know the history of live-action adaptations of anime, we are talking about the one that has broken the barrier and finally shown that it can be done, and it can be done successfully. Netflix's One Piece. Joining me tonight, Mr. David Wright. How you doing?
For a second there, I thought we were going to start talking about Battle Angel again.
Oh, no, not that again. All right. So first off, you contacted me and said you were interested in discussing One Piece. Are you a fan of the classic anime or read the manga? Tell me a little about your history with
Sure.
this.
I wouldn't call myself a fan of One Piece, but I have watched quite a bit of One Piece.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who don't know, my wife is Japanese, so we often watch Crunchyroll because it's a good way that we can watch something that we both understand.
Yeah, totally.
So she was watching One Piece one night, and I was watching the show, and I think a character said something like, "Oh, what does he mean?" It's like, "Oh, well, to understand that, you need to go back to the beginning."
Yeah.
Or actually, no, I think it was I was like, "Oh, I'll watch this." So he said, "Oh, well, then you have to go back to the beginning." So. Again, for those of you who don't know, there's about 1,075 plus episodes of One Piece now.
And it's still
going.
Yeah, and anyone who comes to you and says, I want to start watching anime, I think I'll start with One Piece. You are allowed to laugh. Because
I mean, you can do that,
no
but
one's
it's going to take you a while to get caught up.
A long time.
So we started watching One Piece, and I think we got about as far as the Skypiea arc, for those of you in the know. So I've seen a bit past, where the season 1 of the live action leaves off, but I have still not seen a lot of One Piece. It's a fun show. I don't mind it, but I wouldn't really call myself a fan, quote unquote.
Yeah, myself neither, actually. I have seen several episodes of it.
Mm-hmm.
I know a lot about it. Those who don't know me that much, I am a Comic-Con and Anime Con vendor, and it is impossible to work one of those events without seeing cosplays of Luffy, Nami, and Zoro, specifically. Those are the 3 big ones you see at every convention. Points if the Zoro cosplayer actually does pull that 3rd sword and put it in their mouth for the photo op. But I was intrigued by this, especially when they announced that the creator of the original manga, and for the record, I am going to butcher these Japanese names like there is no tomorrow, so I'm apologizing in advance. But the original creator, Eiichiro Oda, I think is
Eiichiro Oda.
Eiichiro Oda was on board.
Eiichiro is how it's pronounced.
Eiichiro.
Perfect. Good.
Okay, Eiichiro Oda was on board for this.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of got my interest, because normally when we have a project that the original creator is willing to sit in on, it usually shows a lot more promise. We talked a lot about this when they did the Super Mario Brothers movie, and Shigeru Miyamoto was one of the executive producers, because he was like, this is my baby, I'm not just handing it off to you. And you kind of get the feeling of that with Oda. So... And again, it's also a little hard to stomach because anime adaptations have the long. We always joke about how video game adaptations for the longest time were cursed. Anime adaptations had the longest running curse. Ghost in the Shell, Cowboy Bebop, Shudder, Dragon Ball Evolution. Ugh.
That probably take the cake for the worst. But yeah, there's been a lot.
Undoubtedly.
There's
It
like
is
a TV movie, A Fist of the North Star, Speed Racer, which I personally
Death
thought was actually
Note.
pretty good. Death Note live action,
yeah, just
yeah.
okay.
The
Dave, let me ask,
Guyver, which actually got a sequel, so points for
Oh,
them
that's
for
true.
getting to 2.
let me ask you this: why do you think anime is from a historical standpoint, just from looking at the statistics and the ratio of the flops to the successes? Why do you think anime adaptations have seen the most failure? Why do you think it's so hard about it adapting something like this?
It's a bit of a tricky question to answer because you have to ask like which anime is being adapted for starters. There's certainly some anime that I think would be better than others. Like Cowboy Bebop is a perfect example. There's no real blockers other than visual effects for being able to do a good live action Cowboy Bebop. I mean, they didn't quite manage to pull that off. For more on that, please listen to our review of the Cowboy Bebop live action. But like Ghost in the Shell, like, I mean, you've seen Blade Runner. If you can do Blade Runner, you can do Ghost in the Shell in live action. Again, for a quick summary of my review with Mark on that one, is they basically just went with like the most boilerplate, stereotypical story that they could for that film instead of really doing something interesting with the premise. But to get more into your like shonen means young boys. It's like your shonen fighting shows, like your Dragon Balls, your Dragon Ball Z's, Bleach, Naruto, One Piece, like kind of like all the really big name shows. I think the problems stem with, well, one, if it has a very Japanese setting, it's difficult to adapt it into something that's not set in Japan, which most American productions wouldn't want to do. Which I don't
true.
necessarily blame them for to that point.
I think I said something about that with the Death Note adaptation because everyone was complaining with what they did with Misa Misa. And I pointed out, it's like, okay, I can understand not liking the character Mia, but Misa Misa would not really translate to Western audiences. The whole goth girl pop starlet kind of thing. That's not something that here in America we identify with and we really understand. So of course they would have to change that. Otherwise you just have a million people watching going, what?
Yeah, I mean the same thing can be said of like other cross-cultural movies. Like for example, the Japanese movie Shall We Dance was made into a movie with Jennifer Lopez and Richard Gere. The movie itself is not bad, but there is something missing if you don't understand the culture around Japanese work and like the salaryman and sort of the way that Japanese family structures and work-life balance works. There is no work-life balance, but so like even though the film,
I run my own company. I don't get a work-life balance.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, but I think the last thing I would say is that just some of these worlds and situations are just so outlandish or difficult to adapt. Like it is hard to make like a live action Dragon Ball that looks like Dragon Ball and can be taken seriously. There's not enough moose in the world to do those haircuts justice, for starters.
Well said.
So like I'm not saying it's impossible. In fact, I would rate One Piece as one of the most difficult shows to do from a visual standpoint into live action, and somehow they pulled it off. And so after this point, it's like, I think they could pretty much do anything, because if you can do One Piece, that's like, there's nothing that would be harder to do.
And we'll be getting to that production design and everything in a little bit. For starters, let's just go ahead and talk a little bit about the show. This was brought to us by Netflix, Kaji Productions, Tomorrow Studios, and Shueisha, Japanese company. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. Okay, this is why David's on here, to correct my complete slandering of the Japanese language.
Yes. Don't take this the wrong way, but it once you learn the basics of the Japanese alphabet, pronunciation becomes really easy. Like
I believe it, but my husband's Romanian and I can't even get his language down.
But fortunately Japanese has less sounds than in the English language, so you can pretty much it's pretty easy for us to learn how to pronounce Japanese words than the other way around. That being said, grammar, writing system, a lot more difficult, but
I believe it.
that's a different podcast.
Yeah. We actually had a Japanese foreign exchange student in I think it was my junior year of high school, and she had this little translator app. This was pre-smartphones.
Yeah.
And she was trying to use the app and everything, and we were just, oh my God, from the amount of slang to our various accents. I live in Missouri, so you got a couple of those more southern accents, more northern accents, and after a while, it's just like, sweetie, just put that thing away, okay? It's useless. You're never going to be able to figure it. I think we can all agree the American language is a crock. We have bastardized it so much.
Yeah, there's a lot of variation in English in terms of accents and expressions, and same in Japanese too. There's different dialects all around the country. Like someone from Kansai speaks very differently than someone from Tokyo. They can still understand each other, but there's still going to be certain phrases and words that are not used the same way.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and talk about this. If you are not familiar with One Piece, either from the series or from the manga or the long-running anime, the series follows the adventures of the Straw Hat Pirates as they explore the dangerous oceans and lands and beyond in the search for the One Piece. The Netflix series this follows from the beginning of the series through the Arlong Park saga or Park arc. I've heard both words used for it.
Either or works for me.
But the setup for this is that the king of the pirates, what is his name?
Gold Roger.
Gold Roger. I was like, I wanted to say Roger Gold. I'm like, no, that's not it.
Yeah. But it's like his middle initial is D, so it's like Gold D Roger. At least that's how I always read it. But yeah, Gold Roger.
Gold Roger, he is the king of the pirates, and he is finally caught. And he is set to be executed. And as he's on the platform, because they're making this a big public spectacle, someone shouts out, "So where's your treasure?" Because this man's been pirating for years. He had to have put his loot somewhere. He obviously didn't have it on him when he was captured. And he says, "It's out there. It's yours. Go find it." And he's killed, and the race is on. All these pirates now, because this world, you're basically either a pirate, a marine, or you are a civilian. And if you're a civilian, you are living in an absolute world of shit. There is no way around it. The civilians,
certainly wherever the Straw Hats go.
Yeah, it's like the civilians in the One Piece universe just have no luck whatsoever. They are victims of everything. They're either the victims of the bad pirates, or they're the victims of the Marines who have let the power go to their head. Take your pick.
To be fair, we went to an island and everyone was happy is not a very compelling story.
Very true. So yes, we're focusing on the Straw Hat Pirates, which is captained by Monkey D. Luffy, as he put it. This guy is he is played by, well, I'm not going to be able to pronounce his name either.
I think it's Iñaki Godoy.
Iñaki Godoy, yeah, I think so. I had no idea where the accent was. For the record, this series is almost entirely cast of, I don't want to say no names, but mostly newcomers. We've got a lot of actors in here who have done a handful of projects, but not a lot of them really have any big shows or movies under their belt, which I think helps a lot with this.
Yeah, probably the biggest name would be Mackenyu, who plays Zoro. In this, and he's I believe the son of Sony Chiba, a famous Japanese actor. If you've seen Kill Bill, he was Hattori Hanzo, the swordsmith. And then Mackenyu, he's done a few movies as well. I think he's even done some anime live action adaptations in Japan.
Yes, I got here JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, Diamond is Unbreakable Chapter, Tokyo Ghoul S, Rorori Kenshin, The Final. He was also in Knights of the Zodiac. So yeah, he is the biggest. But again, if you don't follow a lot of Japanese media, you're not going to recognize him.
Yeah.
So yes, we've got Iñaki Godoy as Monkey D. Luffy, a self-proclaimed pirate who wants to be king of the pirates, even though I don't think he knows what a pirate is.
Yeah, well, that's the problem with all pirate media. Really, he's got that childlike idea of a pirate. It's all about like adventure and freedom and not having to go to bed when they say you have to, and skipping school, and just that sort of fun piratey thing, as opposed to the raping, murdering, dying of scurvy type pirates that are more realistic in history. I mean, it's the same thing with Pirates of the Caribbean. It's like the pirates are the bad guys.
Pretty
much. The East India Company, Lord Beckett, he was the good guy. He was just a jerk. Like
Yeah.
they had him hang a small child at the start of the third movie to make him look bad.
Pretty much. Yeah, Monkey D. Luffy, I mean, we have a scene where they point out that they're going to need to steal a ship because their ship is sinking, and Luffy's like, that's not what we do. And they're all like, what kind of pirate are you? How do you not know you're supposed to steal a ship? But he is so optimistic, and that's one of the things I love about the way that Inaki plays him. And he really does capture that innocence from the anime and the manga, that Luffy is just, he's not only perpetually happy, but his unwavering optimism is it's incredible. This is a guy who has never experienced a bad day in his life. As far as he's concerned, everything is positive, everything is good. There's always something good to come out of everything. I get the feeling that if it had been him instead of Shanks who had lost his arm, he would have just said, okay, well, half price on gloves for the rest of my life. That's good, right?
Something like that. Yeah. Luffy is, from my perspective, somewhat unique in terms of shonen protagonists, in that he is, for lack of a better term, kind of a simpleton. Like he's not really super smart. He doesn't have that deep of a tragic backstory or anything. He's like, I want to become king of the pirates, and he just goes for it. And that is fairly unique. Like if you were to look at sort of these characters with sort of vague descriptions of them, of all the Straw Hat Pirates, you probably would not peg Luffy as the captain of the group.
No, he's more like the cabin boy.
Yeah, he pretty much looks like the cabin boy, but no, he actually is the captain. And like I would say that their portrayal of Luffy is like Godoy's performance as Luffy is not the same as the cartoon Luffy, because the cartoon Luffy would be very difficult to adapt faithfully because he's a lot more of a Looney Tunes type character. But even then, sort of they're able to sort of capture the sort of essence that works with this version of Luffy. And even Eiichiro Oda has said that it's not the same Luffy as the one I wrote, but I still really like this version of Luffy.
Yeah, he actually said that Godoy, when he came in to interview, he was the only one who genuinely made him laugh. Yeah. And that's why they knew that they had to cast him as Luffy, because he really caught that spirit.
Yeah, and Luffy is a funny character.
Absolutely. And that's not even when he's using his gum powers, because that's the big point of his character, is that he mistakenly ate the devil fruit, which has given him, basically changed him into Mr. Fantastic.
Pretty much.
Without the brain.
Yeah, this is a fantasy world that's very naval based, and there are different fruits called devil fruits that if you eat them, it gives you some sort of superpower. In Luffy's case, it turns his body into rubber. But the price you pay is that the sea basically rejects you, and that if you fall in the sea, like you sink like a stone, you cannot swim,
you lose all your powers.
Yeah, which if you're a pirate, that can be a very, very bad situation. So,
yeah, and I love there's so many scenes with him, like when they get the Going Merry, and he's sitting on that giant helm in the front, and it's like one wrong move, and you could so easily fall in, and he has no cause. Any other person would be locked in that cabin, and there'd be like, let me know when we're close to land, and then I'll come out.
Yeah.
But I think it is important to point out the fantastical element of One Piece. I remember showing the trailer of this to my husband, and he was like, so clown pirates and fish pirates and I'm like, just don't ask. Just don't ask.
Yeah, this is a world where don't look for so much logical consistency or realism. You just kind of have to roll with it. Like, why does that man have ram horns on? No explanation given. Just roll with it.
It's like, yeah, it's just like, why are there fish people? Because there's fish people.
Yep.
We've got fish people.
We've got themed pirates because there are themed pirates. Just roll with it.
Yes, we have clown pirates, and yes, cat I think pirates, that is his real
fish
nose.
Pirates. Yep.
And again, that's not even going into further into the series. We are going to see so many different kinds of animal pirates, so many different themed pirates.
Yeah, if you think the show is weird up till now, just wait.
Yeah, but that also does bring, I do want to talk a bit about the production design, because this, not only did I feel they captured the spirit of the anime, but the look. This is a show that looks like a live action anime. Um, what was one of your favorite elements of what did you think? The makeup, the set design, what really stood out to you when you noticed, oh my god, this is like it's capturing it. It's got what it needs.
I'd probably go with like the set design and costuming more than anything else. Like I think one of the first things I saw was the variety set, like the floating restaurant, and
Right.
it looks pretty much ripped right off of the page of the book or from the anime. Like that is what you would imagine a real version of that restaurant to look like.
Mhm.
And yeah, same like the Going Merry looks like the Going Merry. I mean, it's, you know, they've added some details to the design. Like the figurehead is a lot more looking like a realistic sheep as opposed to, you know, a more cartoony version. But yeah, like it, you know, all the costumes the characters wear are the costumes that the characters wear in the show. All the costume changes that they use through the various arcs are also in there. So yeah, like they did a good job of making this look like a realistic version of that One Piece world. Even the transponder snails, like my wife wasn't terribly interested in watching it, but when she saw the snail, she was just like, you know, whoa, like they actually did that.
I watched that with Andre, and he's like, "That's a snail." I'm like, "Again, don't ask questions."
Yeah, for some reason, yep, snails can
Snails.
be used as telephones in this world. Just roll with it.
And Bluetooth earpieces.
Yes, yeah, that was new, but yeah, it worked.
I think the thing that caught my attention was Kaya's mansion. We have 2 episodes spent with when we get introduced to Usopp and his friend Kaya, and that she is sadly she thinks she's being looked over by her loyal butler, who is actually the captain of the Black Cat Pirates.
Who are also Black Cat themed.
To the point that they actually hiss when they attack.
Yeah, and have fangs, and yeah.
And gloves with Wolverine-like claws. Actually, it wasn't really Wolverine-like claws. It was more like either Lady Deathstrike, or I was thinking Tawakaka from Blaze Blue. That's kind of what I was thinking with those claws.
Yeah, just like really long blades on the fingertips. Yeah.
And you have a scene where they go in to her dining room, and the wall is covered in fine china. Like they just stuck a million plates all over the walls. And I remember thinking, that is absurd, and it's gorgeous. And I wish to God I could pull that off in my house because it's so cool. And you have, again, the butler character, Kudo, who looks like he was ripped straight out of an anime. He's got the slicked black hair. It looks like he's got I think they may have put a little prosthetic on his chin because his chin looks a little bit bigger. It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But he looks like, if you were to say a live action version of the character from the anime, he's perfect. Like that is exactly how I would expect that character to be in live action. Like they nailed it. Like down to like his movements and the way he plays with the blades when he has the gloves, and you know, it works.
Absolutely. So yes, we get introduced to 5 of our main characters who are going to be the Straw Hat Pirates. We have Monkey D. Luffy, we have Rono Zoro, we have Nami, we have Usopp, and we have Sanji. Whose character arc did you enjoy the most seeing on the live action of those 5?
Yeah, like one thing that I think contributes to the success of One Piece is that it does have a very diverse cast in terms of like all sorts of different characters. Like even if you don't like Luffy, there is a Straw Hat Pirate that you will like. Even if you're not that big into the show, everyone will sort of find a character that they do like. For me, I tend to gravitate more towards Zoro, being like someone who was into Japanese swords, and yeah, his sort of arc to become the strongest swordsman, his sort of no nonsense approach. He's very much the straight man of the crew for the most part, especially like when put next to Luffy or Usopp.
Yeah, and I love all the little details they added. Anyone who's watched the anime knows that Zoro has the worst sense of direction in the world. And you actually have a scene where he saves Luffy from, I think it's from the Marines.
Yeah, he's been captured.
Yeah, that's right. And Luffy goes, "How'd you find me?" And he goes, "I didn't. I thought I was going back to the house." It's just like that little note. It's like, yes, that's exactly what would happen with Zoro, because he would get lost.
Yeah, and yeah, they kept his arc. They kept most of the character arcs very intact. They kind of had to truncate some things a bit for time, but I just love that that moment with Zoro when he's fighting Mihawk, the world's greatest swordsman, to claim the title. And there's that
Mihawk's introduction was so badass. I
Yeah.
loved it.
Yeah, he was actually fighting the pirates that Luffy fought in that arc, but they, again, because they were shrinking it down, they just sort of threw them in as to introduce just how much of a badass Mihawk is.
Very
But there's
much.
just this great moment where like Zoro challenges Mihawk to a fight, and Mihawk's like, his attitude's kind of like, not another wannabe greatest swordsman, and he fights Zoro and starts to see, okay, this guy's got some skill, but you get to this moment in the fight where Zoro realizes he's not going to win. Like, he is way outclassed. You just see him, he stands up, he holds his arms outstretched, and Mihawk goes, "What are you doing?" And Zoro says something like, it's the greatest shame for a swordsman to die with a scar on his back. And at that moment, Mihawk just goes like, you're the real deal. Like, you see that moment where there's this sort of respect that is forged between him and Zoro, and that's still probably one of my favorite moments in all of One Piece. And I'm glad that it was still done here, and just their ability of choreographing that fight. We just have, like, especially when it's just Mihawk with the little blade, like just his tiny, like, little pocket knife, basically going
What
up
was it?
against
You
Zoro.
don't use cannons to fight rabbits.
Yeah, well, it was kind of like, this is the only way I can give you a fighting chance, is because he for those of you who haven't seen the show, he like walks around this big gaudy sword on his back that is basically used to cut through like fleets of ships. It's that kind of
that
show.
thing puts the Buster Sword from Final Fantasy VII to shame.
Yeah. So Zoro challenges him to a fight, and he's just like, takes off his little necklace, which has this knife that's maybe like 3 inches long, and he's just like, this is like the only way that I can give a remote fair fight with you is to have this much of a handicap. And it's crazy, like him blocking all the swords just by like touching the tip on the edge of the swords, and how that all looked seamless. Like, it looked like it was actually happening. It didn't look sort of forced or through effects or anything. It was really well done. Like, I have to give them credit. Like, they really tried hard to get the fight choreography good. I think a lot of the actors did their own fights. The actor that played Sanji apparently trained incessantly to be able to do the sort of kick fighting that Sanji does.
That blew me away, because one of Sanji's character traits is that as a chef, he believes that his hands are his most valuable assets, which they are.
Yeah.
So his character has developed a fighting style that is entirely using his legs. He does not punch. He does not chop. He does not block with his hands. It is strictly leg based, and they nailed that. It looked effective. At no point did it look like he was just like flailing with his legs. Those look like really badass, impressive martial arts moves.
Yeah, the only effect I didn't really like was when they did Captain Kuro doing the sort of super fast movement thing where they did that blur effect. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, it just never looks good. Like, I can't hold it against this show or any other show it's been done, and it's just, no one's managed to make super fast movement blurring look good on film yet. And unfortunately that's the one that they couldn't do. But everything else, like everything looks really well done. Nothing looks cheap or phoned in.
Well, let's face it, only one film has ever actually managed to pull that off.
Okay.
X-Men Days of Future Past.
Okay. Yeah, but I think they did that more by slowing down the time instead.
You never said that they couldn't alter. I'm just saying that that's how they made it work.
I get your point. Yeah, but the doing it from the perspective of the person moving really fast, that does work better.
Yeah, no, I agree. They try too hard to actually make it look like they're blurring, when I feel like it would have been better just to actually cut and like have some dust or paper flying when it's like, wait, weren't they just there or something? Instead of trying to make it look like you caught them moving, more like blink and they're gone.
Yeah, do a quick cut and a little like whoosh sound effect, and then they're behind me now. Or
Exactly.
I think that. But anyway, again, that's my biggest complaint from a effects production standpoint.
The fight choreography in this is really impressive. We have got some excellent fight scenes. The one between Zoro and Mihawk definitely stands out. I think one of my favorites is Shanks pirates fighting. I don't remember what the name of the jackass pirates who were roughing up the bar.
Yeah, they're not really that important as near as I can tell.
Yeah, they're cannon fodder.
Yeah, they were there just for as a plot device to sort of for Shanks to bounce off of.
Yeah, but it is a really great fight scene, especially seeing Usopp's father, who I guess has just Yesop, who has just the ability to instantly target the dude's like Captain America throwing, or like Hawkeye, firing an arrow, Captain America firing his shield. He knows exactly where the bullets and everything are going to bounce off and hit. And it's so
he never
cool.
misses. Yeah.
Never misses. And we get a lot of, they do a lot of spin technique with the fight choreography where they have the camera circle around it. But again, and some people I've heard complain that that's overused, but I think the fight choreography in this is well done enough that you don't notice the spin technique. I feel you notice that more when the choreography is off, because then you're like, oh, and here we go again, them showing everything. But when the choreography is on point, you're more focused in the action than you are with the camera technique.
Yeah,
So,
like I didn't really notice a lot of the camera spinning until it was pointed out to me. So I figure, if you don't notice it, then it works. It's, unlike say something like Star Trek Discovery, where they're just like, let's use a crazy camera angle and spin the camera all around the scene, and you just it's like, why are we doing this? They're just people talking.
yeah, something like with the Battlefield Earth, it's like they do the tilted angles, which
Dutch
can
angles every scene.
Yeah, Dutch angles, which can be really effective, but when they do it while people are just talking, it's like, why am I looking at this?
Yeah, well, if you watch like the first Thor movie, like whenever they're in Asgard, they use Dutch angles, but when they're on Earth, they use like straight framing or whatever the term is to sort of subtly indicate, you're in a different world here.
I never actually caught that. That's a good option.
No, I mean someone explained it. I think I might have seen it in a video or something. But yeah, it's subtle, unlike in Battlefield Earth.
Yeah, or it's just
where
like,
nothing is subtle.
No, nothing is subtle in that movie. So of course we also get some really great antagonists, including Buggy the Clown, our clown pirate, who again saw in the trailer, and my husband's like, "What the hell?" And I got into a great conversation with a girlfriend of mine who's a huge anime fan, because we had just reviewed Twisted Metal on Peacock. Plug. And I joked about, who do you think is scarier, Buggy the Clown or Sweet Tooth? And she was just like, Buggy the Clown's not scary, because if you watch the anime, he's the first boss fight, essentially. He is not there to be a threat, but he's just a repeating antagonist. He just shows up and it's like, oh god, it's Buggy. But I stand by, doing the chop in live action was pretty damn creepy.
Yeah, and they made it work too. Again, that's a difficult effect to pull off, but they sold it.
They really did. You have him flinging his body parts everywhere. You have a final scene of him is literally just a head, his hands, and his feet.
Which is accurate to the anime.
To the anime and the manga, exactly. But in the anime, it looks so stupid, and you expect it to look ridiculous. It's like, no, that actually looks legit. But this.
I mean, it is played for laugh in both versions.
Yeah. But him doing the chop where all of his body parts come apart, and oh god, the finding of his ear in Luffy's hat. Oh, that was legit creepy. Oh, that made me shudder. I hated that. I did not expect that moment. I think.
Yeah, they've overall gone with a bit of a more serious, grounded, darker tone for it. But this isn't like grim, dark Christopher Nolan, Dark Knight type stuff. It's just, I think they realize that we can't do it completely accurate to the tone of the original. We're going to have it somewhat based, and they just rode that very fine line between having it just crazy enough to be One Piece, but still grounded enough to take seriously. And Buggy, he's a bit more of a darker, more menacing character. Again, not like a dark character, but like you see him with all the townsfolk chained up, as a captive audience, and it's unsettling.
Yeah, I love that line. I let them keep their hands.
Yeah, so they can clap.
Yeah. Because especially since you have no qualms that he probably would have no issues chopping their hands off. But he'd be like, no, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. But it's pretty much as good a Buggy the Clown as we could possibly get. Usopp too, I think, benefits a lot from the more grounded tone. In the anime, he's a lot more loud and screaming and in your face and a bit insufferable, in all honesty. So
is he a compulsive liar in the anime?
Yes. Well, I think the name Usopp probably comes from the Japanese word uso, which means like to lie.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it makes sense where you see him like, son of a pirate who's just trying to, dreams of the big life, out at sea having adventures, but he's sort of stuck in the small island town, having to sort of pretend it. But at least as far as I've seen in the show, he always tends to talk big, and he does that annoying thing. Zenitsu in Demon Slayer also has this thing where he'll talk really big when there's no danger, but then the moment someone's like, "Oh, hey, the bad guy's back," it's like, save me! I can't help myself. It's just like I like the idea of Usopp being this character who he is a coward. Like he's but he wants to become stronger and braver, and that's sort of how his character grows over time. Like you saw like in the Arlong Park arc, which is sort of his first big fight. He fights one guy.
And he kicks his ass.
But he kicks his ass.
He does. I love how he fights. And I even love that he taps into Luffy's idea of calling out his finishing name before he fires the little fireball.
The Sanji line with him and Zoro. It's like, all the best attacks, they call it the names. Like, you're going to fit right in.
That was great.
I like the idea of Usopp where, like, you have Zoro's fighting style is very much, I have my strength, you have your strength. We face off mano a mano with honor on the field of battle. May the best man win, sort of thing. Whereas Usopp's like, no, I'm going to run. I am going to scream. I am going to use every single bit of deception and trickery in the book to give myself an edge, to win the fight. And like, that's a refreshing style of fighting. In comparison, again, it's sort of they are a diverse crew where they all have their own different strengths and weaknesses and ways of approaching situations and things that they are aspiring to do. I think even like in the character polls in Japan, Usopp tends to be like the least popular of the Straw Hats overall. But I do think that by toning him down a bit, they've made him more of a compelling character in this version.
Absolutely. Like I said, I think Sanji is still my favorite character.
And he gets the least screen time because he's the last Straw Hat introduced, but they do good with him.
They do, but admittedly, I think it's just because I'm such a foodie, and they actually really went out of their way to show how well he was cooking. You got that scene of him actually chopping the tuna, and I was like, I just want to watch him cook. Oh my God, I just want to watch him chop meat and vegetables for like an hour, and I'm fine. I love that he's such a womanizer. He's such a flirt. Yeah. I will admit, this always drove me nuts in the anime, and it drives me nuts here. A good chef doesn't smoke because it ruins the palate. And it's like, no, I know he does it in the anime, and I hated it there too.
Yeah, well, they could have made it in a lollipop. That was a real inside joke for you listeners.
Touche.
Yes. Though if we want to play the Mr. Wizard game, I do hear that substance abuse is actually a really big problem amongst professional chefs.
So I've heard.
Yeah, but just as quick aside, his backstory with Zev on the island, where like Zev basically eats his own leg so that Sanji has enough food to survive. Like even in Japan, they didn't show that. Like it was strongly implied, but they thought that was even too much for kids. Bear in mind that this show has a lot of violence in it.
It does. This show, they had no qualms about showing the gore. And that's actually hilarious because they said they were going to cut down on the cigarettes with Sanji. And they did because in the anime, in the manga, he's always got a cigarette in his mouth. This time I think we see him light up, twice? Yeah,
maybe. It's not that memorable. But my wife was even impressed that, like, wow, they actually showed, like, Zev with his leg cut off.
Yeah, I mean, when the fight with Mihawk and Zoro, they show how much blood he loses from that slash.
That would be anime accurate.
Okay, how about the scene where Zoro slices that one clown into 3 separate parts?
Yeah, I think that's kind of how they did it with Buggy. I mean, but again, he kind of has the
not Buggy. It was one of his assistants.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time.
Wait, was it a clown? I don't remember who he fought.
I don't think it was a clown, but Buggy's minions are all circus themed. He was like the knife thrower, I think. Yeah.
All right, so I think it is also important to point out that this show has been greenlit for a 2nd season. Oda announced it on YouTube via a snail,
transponder snail.
transponder,
Yeah,
and
yeah, he doesn't like to show his face. Can't blame him.
fair enough. But it also showed him drawing another character we will be seeing in season 2. And this
Mhm.
one, I am dying to know how they're going to make this work.
Yes, the big question of season 2 is how are they going to do Chopper?
Tony Chopper, who is literally a miniature walking, talking reindeer.
Yeah. Also, according
And
to my not very scientific poll, the most popular Straw Hat Pirate, especially
well,
with
it's
girls.
easy. Well, obviously, because it's easy to make plushies out of him.
Yeah, he's just so cute.
Yeah, there's again, it's like the three. I'm serious about those 3 cosplays, but the amount of Chopper plushies, wow!
Mhm.
Every girl's got a Chopper plushie.
Yeah.
Because
So,
yes, he's adorable.
Is it going to be CG, prosthetics, puppetry, all of the above? Yeah, that's going to be, I'm sure, what everyone will be looking for the most with the second season is how are they going to implement Chopper?
And I'm very confused about it as well because this show, it has CGI and it has good CGI, but it also limited a lot of the CGI. Majority of those sets were built.
Yeah.
And we still had some great CGI moments, but they used a lot of prosthetics for the makeup, and we were limited with how many shots we had of the Chop and the Gum and everything. So would they use CGI? Because it's clear that if they use CGI, then that thing's going to take like 90% of the budget.
Yeah, again, I don't know. We'll have to see. Though I assume they're going to get a better budget because this is like the most popular thing Netflix has ever done.
Next to Stranger Things, yeah, it is.
I think it might have even surpassed Stranger Things. So yeah, it's their biggest hit I think they've ever had.
Well, that also does go back to what I originally asked, because I asked why you thought that so many anime adaptations have failed, and we went through that giant list. What is it about One Piece that succeeds?
Like in terms of the live action, well, one, I think that they did their best to try and be faithful to the original. And you even see like all of the promotional material around this has always been like, the actors really enjoying their roles, like Iñaki Godoy being really Luffy, him meeting Eiichiro Oda and, being sort of blessed with, like you are worthy of playing Luffy. I think he even met Luffy's voice actress. Luffy's played by a girl in Japan.
Not surprising, so is Naruto.
Yeah, and Goku, by the way, in Dragon Ball.
Not Dragon Ball Z, but Dragon Ball.
Dragon Ball is Dragon Ball. Anyway. So like part of it I think was like they had really good PR going into this, especially compare that to like Cowboy Bebop, where it's basically like, oh, you fans, if you don't like what we're doing, then just don't watch. We don't need you. Like, oh geez, interesting tactic for advertising.
I didn't mind the Cowboy Bebop live action adaptation.
I think it gets more
scene.
Yeah. I mean, short answer, I think that gets more hate than it deserves. But yeah, like there's definitely some script problems there, and it didn't really manage to capture what made the original work. But yeah, back to One Piece. I think, well, one is it's positive, like you said. It's a fun show to watch, but there is still like some decent character stuff in there, and there are dark moments in the show, certainly. Especially you get into like Nami's arc.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but in the end, the good guys win, and the world's made a better place, and like I think it's just right now everything is just so darn depressing, from like news and media and social media. Like we seem to be in a very big funk right now. Just to have something that's just like hey, positivity, good things can happen. I think that helps a lot. And yeah, like they just sort of were able to really capture like the essence of these characters, the show, and just, the fun and the adventure and the themes of it. And I think it was also just such a crazy project that people just couldn't help but get curious. Like when I first saw the trailer, it's like, oh, wow, this actually looks like it might work. Like I basically watched the first episode just to see like, are they going to pull it off? And holy smokes, they actually did. And then, I kept watching, and I think it's just also very different. like to a lot of
It
people,
really
it'll be a
is.
new IP, and it's just so unique that I think it's we're just hurting for something new because everything is just like a sequel, reboot, remake.
And yet this is an adaptation.
And I mean, this is an adaptation, but again, an adaptation is something that's not popular
With
again,
Western
could be new.
audiences.
With
I mean,
Western audiences, I mean, yeah, you go to Japan, it's massive, it's huge.
you go to anime cons, it's everywhere.
Yeah,
I mean,
like
everyone knows
seriously,
One Piece.
like if you look at like manga unit volumes sold, like the bar graph, it's basically like One Piece is there at the top, and like the second one down is like half of that. It's like watching the military spending comparison bar graphs, where America just pretty much outspends the next 4 countries combined.
So again, we're gonna get season 2.
Yep.
I don't think we've gotten a release date on that yet, but since we just got over the writer strike and we are still dealing,
I think they heard saying like it'd be like a X amount of months after the strikes are all resolved. Because I think the actor strike is still going on at this time.
it is the writer strike just cleared up, which thank God we now have late night television back. We missed you, John Oliver.
Yep. The only movie that got delayed is the one movie this year I wanted to see. Thanks, Warner Brothers.
Oh, Dune.
Yeah. They delayed the first one and they delayed the second one. Like, why? Why do you not want me to see Dune, Warner Brothers?
It's like, we have money. We want to give it to you.
Yeah.
We want to buy a ticket. Because, you have to see Dune on the big screen, even if it does go to streaming as well. I think I said the same thing about Godzilla versus Kong. It's like, you can see it streaming, but you need to feel that sound effect. And you need to see the sandworm on the big screen. You need to feel that size. It's just not the same, even if you got like a big screen TV. It doesn't feel the same. Yeah,
it's definitely one of those movies that benefits from going to see on the biggest screen possible. Anyway, it is not One Piece.
It's all good. So yes, we got second season coming up. They've confirmed that Chopper will be coming in. I don't know much. Again, I watched a few episodes here and there of One Piece. One of the great things about the show, I will say, is that for the most part, a lot of the shows you can kind of pick up what's going on very easily. It's not a show that, like, I hate to say, like with Dragon Ball, where you try to watch and you try to just pick up a random episode and it's like, I'm sorry, what's going on? I felt that was a good series. Well, the anime was really good, that you could kind of jump in and be like, okay, I think I can pick up what's going on here. Okay, I think I know what's going on. And you can kind of put the pieces together pretty easily.
Well, with a lot of anime series, one, if you've seen a few, especially shonen anime, you kind of know the tropes enough that you can kind of fill it in. I mean, a lot of shows I watch anime and otherwise, I tend to get into them in the middle of their run. Like you just, back in the dark days before streaming, where things were all just syndicated on TV, look it up, kids. You're like, you flip channels and you might have seen something interesting and it was whatever episode they were showing at the time and you had to figure it out.
That's why I didn't watch a lot. That's why I didn't watch anime growing up, because I had after school activities. Yeah. So it was like good luck to me being able to watch after school every day, because it's like, no, I'm home on Monday, Tuesday I have this, Wednesday this, then I'm home on Thursday. And apparently I no longer can follow what's going on.
Yeah. And we didn't have Wikipedia to look up what happened either. So, but the funny thing is about a lot of animes is the basic story is pretty simple. It's more when you get into the more details of the world, which you don't necessarily need to understand the overall story. It's like I told you, my wife was like, you have to go back to the beginning. I was talking with one of my friends who lives in Japan and I'm telling him the story and he just says, Luffy wants to be king of the pirates. There, you're all caught up. And he has a point.
He does.
Yeah. But then you get into the story more and it's like, well, now there's the pirates and then there's the Marines and then there's the Admiralty and then the world government with this council and this leader. And then you have, like the 4 pirate, you got like 7 pirate warlords, but then there's the 4 emperors and then there's the hockey system of fighting and then the sword system of fighting and the different devil fruits. And then, oh no, I've gone cross-eyed. And you can say this to a lot of different like anime shows. So,
definitely. I mean, again, I have not watched the anime repeatedly, but I know a lot of the characters. I know a lot of the story arcs, but I don't know what we're going to see in the second season. I know we're going to get Chopper, but I'm also sitting there going, are we going to see Portka Ace, who's one of my favorite characters? I'd love if he gets in it.
Ace,
next season.
Yeah, you might, because what I'm thinking of is because obviously you have to introduce Chopper, and they've said they've introduced Chopper. But I think after Chopper, you get more into the Alabasta arc, which is one of the longer story arcs. Like, I think Alabasta, you would have to do like a season just in and of itself.
Okay, so maybe this next season 2 will be longer than 8 episodes, you think?
Maybe it'll be longer, or we'll just have to, split it.
Okay, so the Alabasta arc would be like part 1 and part 2. So it's season 2 and season 3.
Yeah, like I almost wonder if they'll go with maybe get to the point where they get to Alabasta, and that would be the break off until the next season. So yeah, they might have to find sort of a good cutoff point in the middle of that arc. But I mean, that's for the writers to figure out. But that's sort of just me looking at it from my armchair going, like, yeah, it's going to be kind of interesting to, how are you going to squeeze the stories here? Because of course, as the show progresses, as with most anime shonen shows, the storyline you'll have longer and longer story arcs.
Definitely. So we got a lot to look forward to, but if you haven't watched this show yet, if you're a fan of the anime or not, we highly recommend it. It's fun, it's bright, it's colorful, it's energetic, it's funny, it's loyal to the source material without alienating those who are not familiar with Japan and their customs, their traditions, and just the way they present things. Or like me, who can't even pronounce any part of the language. So, but yes, we highly recommend this. It is on Netflix. Go check it out. We'll definitely be reviewing the second season. That's probably not going to be till next year at the earliest. I don't even know if they've started production on it. So,
yeah, maybe pre-production, but yeah, obviously they can't film without actors.
Yeah, I don't even know if those actors are under the SAG or not.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know either, but we are looking forward to it. And so, yeah, go check it out. So was there anything else we wanted to discuss, David, or shall we go ahead and start rolling into the plugs?
I think the only thing I would mention is the music in this show is also incredibly well done. Sort of riding a line somewhere in between Pirates of the Caribbean and the Monkey Island series. Yeah, I think just that sort of swashbuckling adventuring, and I even like how they even throw a little nod into "We Are," the main theme from the first season of the One Piece show, which is basically the theme song from One Piece. It's kind of like "Chala Head Chala" if you're a Dragon Ball fan. Like, just that's the theme that you know and you love.
Definitely. There is a lot of, especially with the music, you're right. There is a lot of the motif of the Pirates of the Caribbean music used in this, and I don't think that's a problem whatsoever.
Yeah,
it is really enjoyable. I remember that, especially with the scene of Mihawk fighting the pirates, and that blow with his sword that cleaves a ship in half. He doesn't even touch the ship. He creates it's a sonic boom, basically. He goes guile with his sword and breaks the ship in half. So, but you're absolutely right. But you know what? I think it works.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, David, where can we find you next?
Up next, geez, what? This is actually a bit of a busy month for me. I know that we're doing Strange New Worlds later this month. That's season 2 for Star Trek. I was going to be on Dune, but that got moved. No, I'm on Disenchantment, I think January of next year. I don't know if you just saw that they just announced Has Been Hotel is premiering in January. Finally, for reals this time, we promise.
Jesse and I've already cornered Jesse to watch that with me because he and I discussed Hell of a Boss.
Yeah.
The three of us will definitely be talking Has Been Hotel at the end of January.
But yeah, that's kind of and I'll just pop in if ever something pops up that I feel interested in talking about. Oh, I think I'm also on Good Omens season 2 this month.
All right. And yeah, we have you for Ahsoka next week.
Yes,
as well,
and
right?
Ahsoka. Yeah, just finished Ahsoka. And to find out what I thought about that, you'll have to listen to the show.
It's going to be interesting because I will probably be the only person I'm the one hosting that show, and I will probably be the only person discussing it who hasn't watched Star Wars Rebels.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I haven't really watched Rebels either. I've seen clips on YouTube. That's about it.
Likewise. I didn't get a chance to really get into Rebels because I didn't start I did not watch the Star Wars Clone Wars series because I got into a huge fight with people between that and the Genndy Tartakovsky miniseries that came out, which I adore. Genndy Tartakovsky is my favorite animator, in recent memory. And everyone's like, oh, that's not that as good as that. And I unfortunately was comparing the Tartakovsky series to the Clone Wars movie that came out with the rescue of Jabba the Hutt's son, which I really didn't like.
Yeah, again, I think it's one of those shows where within time, like, they were able to make it into something much better. But yeah, if you were just looking at the start, I can totally see how a lot of people would skip it.
So, but I think that's also going to be good because I want to have a wide collection of voices when we discuss Ahsoka about those who know the lore versus those who don't know the lore. We've been discussing for a while now the problem with Marvel and Star Wars is that it's gotten too heavy on, well, you need to have watched this to understand this. As your wife put it, well, you got to go back to the beginning. And we've said before, it's like, we don't want our shows to do that. We want people to be able to enjoy us. And if they've seen the other episodes and everything, then yeah, they're going to get an extra little pinch of enjoyment out of this. But we don't want it to alienate those who haven't had a chance to watch it. So I think this is good, actually, to bring in a lot of people who may have seen it, Rebels and Clone Wars, and those who haven't, so we can discuss, does this really hold up for those who are new to the fandom, who haven't had time to watch these other series?
Yeah, I always tend to enjoy those reviews where you have an adaptation of a book or something, and yeah, like, some of the people are familiar with the source material and other people aren't, because you get sort of how accurate is it to the book, and also how am I going to enjoy this thing if I haven't read the book?
Exactly. Yeah, because there has just been way too much lately of, well, you should have, read this previous book. You should have read the comic. You should have watched the series. You should have watched the movie. It's like, no, we can't do that, folks.
Yeah, the only trick with reviews like that is to make sure they just don't turn into like, well, I didn't understand this. Oh, well, in the book, this and this and this happens. Like, oh, that explains it. And then it's just, the book people explaining all the plot holes to the non-book people.
Well, then it turns into when Mark brought me on to discuss the Harry Potter movies, because I was the only person he knew who had read the books so much I knew them verbatim, and he had me explain every little plot hole.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, I was thinking of that one.
That was like one of the very first shows I was ever asked to be on. That was the beginning of Mark sucking me into his cult.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing as if you're reviewing a comedy and you don't want it to just be like, remember this joke, remember this joke, remember this joke.
All right, so so we're going to be talking Ahsoka next week on the 11th. We got a couple more shows coming up here. I'm trying to get a review going with the discussion of Gen V. I just started watching that the other night. It's really good so far. Not as good as The Boys so far, but still really good. Mark and I will be talking Only Murders in the Building Season 3 at the end of the month. He and I have reviewed every season of that. It is such a great series. Some of the best writing in TV. I think we're actually going to see a lot more progression now that the writer strike is over, because I was having trouble logging in tonight because I have not been on a show in like a month. And it's like, yeah, because there's been nothing to review for like a month, and now everything's finally coming back and everything's getting announced. As far as the plugs that actually do pay the bills, hang on a second here. There it is. I thought I'd just go ahead and show that if you are a fan of One Piece, one of the items I do sell from my company, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom, but the intersection of geek and chic, is our One Piece Jolly Roger inspired charm bracelet made out of repurposed Scrabble tiles. As you can see, it's got the Jolly Rogers of all the main characters on there. This is sold on our Handmade at Amazon shop. You can also find it if you find us at the convention circuit. It's one of our biggest sellers and one of my favorite things to make. We will actually be making our final convention appearance of the year at Planet Anime. This is a new show. Those in the KC area, Planet Comic-Con, that's the big spring show that they host here every year. They have decided to do a split, and they are now doing a anime show this at the end of this month. It's their first time doing it. They have got so many freaking cast members. Let's see if I can pull up in the list here. Let's see here. Where is that cast list of voice actors they got? Okay, we got Christopher Sabat, Mally Flanagan, that's the voice of Naruto, Dave Wittenberg, Brian Drummond, voice of Ryuk from Death Note. We got Kate Higgins, Yuri Lowenthal, Tara Platt, Kyle LeBear, Tony Todd, just so many others. Looks like it's going to be so much fun. Looking forward to it. And as always, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I'm not calling it X. And we are now on TikTok. And of course, you can find our stuff on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. That's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of geek and chic. So for myself, for David, thank you for joining us tonight. Be well, behave, be safe.